Well, we're still working on the backdrop, and Rob came over and he's adding some trees, which will be next week's show. But for this Wednesday, I wanted to show you something that came up about the lighting system. Notice here that as Rob's painting, the light is incredibly blue. That's because I'm lighting with LED light strips, the RGB LED light strips, and no matter how you try to get those things to be white light, they just aren't. They'll be any color you want as long as it's not white. This is more like what I'd like to see, a real live white light, nice and bright where you can clearly see everything. And after screwing around with these RGB strips, I've realized you just can't achieve that with just an RGB strip. They are neat in that you can come up with all kinds of fun lighting effects, nighttime effects, and some effects that you would never actually want to use on your layout, like this green. But it is fun, and it is neat to be able to control the look of the lighting. But as I switch it into white mode here, well, it's still just incredibly blue, isn't it? Some of the controllers are programmable, so you can try to dial in a better looking white light, and that sort of works. But when you dial it into a really nice looking white light, it's also much dimmer. And there's always some kind of telltale color involved, a greenish cast or yellow or something, never really white. This is some of the hardware I've been using. These things are little infrared remote controls, and they control the actual color and brightness of the light. They're really affordable. The cheapest one I've been buying out of Hong Kong for $2.50, which includes the shipping from Hong Kong. I'm not sure how they do that. The wires here are the various oddball connectors that you need to work with these RGB strips. It's taken me a while to ferret all of that out. When I finally get all of this nonsense completely figured out, I want to put up a show on all of the different controllers and things that you need to use these light strips. First, you need to learn how to read and write in Chinese, but that's another story. There's also a lot of new products coming out all the time, including this little gadget here that looks sort of like a white hockey puck. This is another remote control, but instead of using a wireless remote controller, it uses Bluetooth and an app that runs on a smartphone. I know there's a lot of other variants on this out there, but I fell in love with this one first and foremost because it's $14. Got it off of Amazon.com. A bunch of advantages here. For one, by using Bluetooth, it means that you can talk to the light strips individually. With the IR controllers, it wants to run every strip in the entire room when you push the buttons, which quite often is not what you want to do. The app is called Magic Light, and it was super simple to install. I just scanned the QR code that came with the instructions, and it installed the app. And this is another product that works really well with that. This is a single color LED light strip. It just lights up white, but it's available in any color temperature you want. This one's 2700 degrees Kelvin, which means it's the same color as an incandescent light bulb. They're also incredibly bright, about 5 times brighter than an RGB strip. And another advantage of the hockey puck controller is it can control 2 strips, a white strip and an RGB strip at the same time. Here you can see the white strip to the back, much brighter than the RGB strip, and the RGB strip to the front with its telltale blue coloring. For testing, I just sort of laid this along the bench work, and when I saw how well it worked, I decided to tear out the existing light strips and install this setup. I've hardwired an RGB plug here, and I just hardwired the white strip into the controller. The white strip does come with a connector, but for some reason it has the exact same end on it as the power supply, meaning that you'd have to use some sort of barrel connector or something. Plus this plug needs to be hardwired in, so I just snipped it off, stripped the wires, and hardwired it into the controller. Much simpler. When I put up a long show, I'll explain all of these weird connectors, but these light strips do use some peculiar connectors. So here's the app. This is the part that controls the RGB strip, and you can just work this color wheel and go around and dial in any color you want. This is the wheel that controls the relative levels between the white strip and the RGB strip, and that really sets your white value. So in testing, I just sort of set the strips out on the benchwork to get a sense of the whole thing, and I was just stunned and amazed at how well the whole thing works. Proceeded to disconnect my original wiring and re-rig everything to work with this new controller and the twin light strips. Another issue that I've had with the little infrared remotes is they don't really give you a full range of control. If you dim them out, they go down to about half brightness, but they won't go all the way down to black. This gives you a full value on every single color, all the way down to pure black if that's what you want. You can turn the lights totally out. Here you can see running the whole setup from the app with the light strips properly installed. And it's just absolutely stunning the amount of control you have and how bright and wonderful the whole thing looks. The shifting colors really duplicate different lighting situations you'd find in the real world. Look how it changes the sky and the clouds. It's really, really cool. It does feature some automatic fading functions, but I have found them to be really worthless. They go way too fast and then they just duplicate. They cycle in and out over and over and over again. Great for a discotheque, but rotten for a model railroad. But I'm sort of assuming that when we're actually running the railroad, which hopefully we will be pretty soon, we'll just have it set up to a certain value and leave it that way most of the time. But it's nice to know that we can change it for a night setup or anything else we want. Well, time to get back to painting trees, and now we can actually see what we're doing, so that's great.